YouTube.
A platform we all depend on to get our entertainment from.
Censorship.
I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say the word.
Punk ass what I wanna wear!
The tip, the beeps, the blurs, and the beast. Censorship. It's seen as suppression, but also protection and self-awareness. For example, when it comes to the most well-known examples of YouTube censorship, I'm sure you've all heard this audio clip. It comes in various different sounds, various different audio files. Personally, that one's my favorite. Now, blurs, aside from removing sensitive information because failing to do so is the key definition of doxing, there are ways in which YouTubers embrace self-censorship. Such examples could be a content creator like mrBeast. Context, Jimmy used to curse in his older videos all the time, but now he doesn't. Now, is this him trying to be a kid-targeted channel or pander to a younger audience? Obviously not. We know this due to the fact that when mrBeast isn't on a kid-friendly program, he lets it all out and just becomes himself. Also due to the fact that only 18-year-olds and people who are adults are allowed to participate in his challenges, which is not the case with your typical kid-targeted channel. Therefore, what we most likely presume is he's doing it as a way to maximize his RPM and CPM and also become a more algorithm-friendly channel. For those who don't know what RPM and CPM means, RPM is rate per million and CPM is cost per million. Now, if those two are very high, that means you can get less views but essentially get more money. And if you're a channel like mrBeast, who basically has his whole channel resolving around giving money and upping the antics of his money-giving challenges, obviously the amount of money you make on YouTube is very dire. So essentially, if censoring out some words makes it more brand-friendly and more ad revenue generative, then sure, why not do it? We also know that he does this in an attempt to appeal to more age demographics, because it's later revealed that people as young as 6 and as old as 60 watch his content on the YouTube platform. So in reality, that sounds like a pretty fair trade if you ask me. I censor out some of my content in my YouTube videos, but I get potentially more money and more views on the algorithm. Sounds like a pretty equal trade to me. Anyways, moving on, get your textbooks out, we're gonna debunk some YouTube myths. The surface, shadow banning debunked. Shadow banning is both a real and a false term. Although it's mainly used on Reddit forums, on YouTube it has been used correctly and incorrectly. Firstly, if a YouTuber tells you they've been shadow banned from the algorithm or views, that is a blatant lie. However, on the contrary, shadow banning is a realistic term, but it only applies to a YouTuber's comment section and specific videos that have been copyright claimed. Shadow banning in terms of the YouTube comments simply means that they've clicked a button called hide user from this channel. Now what this does is it essentially makes it so every time you comment, you will essentially be put in a held for review tab. Now it's pretty obvious why you've been shadow banned. You've either spammed links, you've been annoying, or you've been harassing other people on the YouTuber's comment section. The reason why it is called a shadow ban is because essentially it does not notify you that you have been shadow banned. You will remain subscribed, still get notifications from that channel, and still be able to do things such as hit the like button and give it a video view. It's called shadow banning because you have to figure out if you've actually been blocked from the comment section yourself. To figure this out, type a new comment and then go to newest replies, then refresh the page and see if your comment still shows up. If it doesn't show up, that means you've obviously been shadow banned. The only way a video can get shadow banned is if it's been blocked in certain countries through YouTube's content ID system. Here's what it looks like. What this means is that since copyright claims do not just keep the revenue of the video that has been monetized, they also get to decide which countries they want to block the video in. Here's an example. So I used copyrighted music on an old video and a brand called WMG, Warner Music Group, claimed the video. So they chose to block it in these 4 territories: Iran, Syria, North Korea, and Iraq, which fine, fair enough. I'm okay with that, whatever. Now, this does mean that the claimant can block the video in all territories, making it so no one except you can access that said content. However, this is different from a copyright strike. A copyright strike issues a takedown on the video and a punishment to your channel. A copyright claim that blocks a video is not a punishment. This This means that if you edit the copyrighted content out of your video, they won't be able to do anything about it. So when a YouTuber says they've been shadow banned, if they're not talking about these two methods, they are completely lying. To show you how extreme of a YouTube shadow ban that would be, we're gonna talk about it in the next part of the iceberg. The body, Ukraine versus Russia, an actual worldwide YouTube shadow ban. The only time YouTube ever shadow bans / punishes an actual creator is when law enforcement or legal action gets involved. Such examples are when JayStation used to make blatantly dangerous and also illegal 24-hour challenge videos. The Ottowa police contacted YouTube and essentially told them, hey, this guy is breaking legal rules on your channel, on your platform, please demonetize his content, which they did. The Russia versus Ukraine drama is the example of how YouTube can essentially shadow ban not just one creator, but essentially everyone living within that territory. However, this is something that YouTube has never done and does not want to do unless if it's an actual serious emergency. The only reason why YouTube actually shadow banned Russia was because the Ukraine versus Russia drama has become a cybersecurity war rather than just a simple attack on Ukraine and Russia's borders. The reason why YouTube has essentially blocked all creators from Russia from gaining money and also affecting people outside of their territory is because the Ukraine government pressured Google to essentially demonetize their content, which they backed up with Russian evidence, basically attacking and cutting them out of context. And in response, YouTube decided, okay, alright, we'll do it, and also made a public announcement on their public Google page. To show you how extreme of a shadow ban this would need to be, if I try and look up Russia versus Ukraine related content, or I try and look up RT, which is Russia Today, it will not show up on Google search terms or on YouTube's search bar. If I click the channel tab, if I try and click channel types, views, relevancy, anything of that sort, it will not show up on the search bar. What's even more interesting is that if I try and type in RT into YouTube's channel URL, which is Russia Today, it will not show up on the search terms either. Instead, I am received by this message, quote unquote, this country's content is not accessible in your country. This is what a YouTube shadow ban would look like, and it's only used as a last resort. If a content creator was this problematic, YouTube would already have their channel terminated, then do all of this. The abyss, demonetization. The words YouTube censorship and demonetization have somewhat of a positive and negative cohesive bond. When it comes to creator on creator based censorship, we do see ethical versions of it, just calling someone out on monetizing tragedy.
You're making videos on a tragedy because it's getting you views. You're a pretty shitty person.
Or unfairly taking the high ground.
They're pretending to take the moral high ground when they're the ones who are really like profiting and benefiting, and you can't pretend to be the good person in this scenario.
However, the more realistic and unfortunate reality is we end up seeing it being a way for creators to go after people they don't like. Such examples, to name a few, would be creators like Pokimane and H3H3 who have gone after people's sponsors who have been critical of their channels. This is not only an extremely douchey thing to do, it's basically saying, well, I can't legally take down the video, so I may as well make it a lose-lose situation. If I can't take down the video, then you can no longer profit off of that said content. And while yes, there have been good examples of people calling out YouTube for their lackluster demonetization and restriction of their content, such examples such as the Picaside drama, or back when YouTube used to demonetize LGBTQ content because it was seen as unfairly sexual. Sometimes the callouts end up being rather lackluster and unproductive.
Or is the demonetization hitting you too hard? Yes, I have, but demonetization is gay, and over half of my videos have limited ads on them, and that amount just increases all the time, which sucks money-wise.
I genuinely don't understand the point of this call out. Dude, you literally put swear words in the thumbnail and description of your videos. No shit, you got limited ads on them. Like, I think it's general knowledge not to put swear words in the video's thumbnail, description, or tags. Like, let this be a lesson. If your goal is to try and get the green check mark, do not put swear words in your metadata. Metadata being thumbnail, description, or tags, because that's stupid and doesn't really give yourself an argument when the person who is reviewing your limited ad content to essentially give you the green check mark, because all he's gonna do is see that there's a swear swear word in the thumbnail, title, or video and be like, are you dumb? Like, it's just stupid. Like, this is a terrible response and a terrible example. Just don't do this. However, there have been certain dramas surrounding demonetization on the algorithm, such as, does a video getting the yellow check mark mean it gets promoted less? This is also discussed with another question, such as, does YouTube treat corporations better than creators? Now, the answer to this question is both a yes and no. This is due to the fact that while yes, YouTube has indeed openly admitted the fact that they do indeed openly promote more advertiser-friendly content, if you think about it, this is true for every single company out there, and YouTube would not be as big as they are now had they not done this. So it's stupid to say that YouTube doesn't promote less advertiser-friendly content, a lot less than more advertiser-friendly content, because every single company does this regardless of what they are, because after all, that's how businesses make profit. Not to mention the fact that YouTube's not stupid. They know a kid can easily access their program through incognito tab, essentially bypassing adult restrictions or parent access. And also the amount of lawsuits they've ended up having involving child safety and child protection and advertising issues. So in a sense, they're kind of forced to do so because they've had lawsuits and also issues revolving around this content. Such examples could be back when Super Mario Logan's content was accidentally promoted to a younger audience and therefore ended up having kids watching this inappropriate content with like cuss words and also like really dark subject matter. So yes, they do promote it less, but we're talking like a fraction of 1% of YouTube's demographic, which for most channels that shouldn't really harm their discovery. Lastly, I think YouTubers underestimate how generous YouTube really is to smaller and bigger content creators, especially when it comes to the monetization and ad revenue aspect of YouTube itself. And while yes, YouTube is indeed more lenient on advertiser rulings through corporations such as news websites or companies, they do still technically get their videos age restricted and or demonetized. And yes, companies are more likely to get advertiser friendly videos. They however will not get a boost in the algorithm over creators. This is because of course every single company, unlike one individual creator, has a team of editors, videographers, and sound effect editors. This means that they can post videos more frequently, more available, hence why YouTube is more lenient towards companies. Because after all, creators don't really have that sort of leniency. Creators, on the other hand, need a little bit more time to upload videos and also take a little bit more effort to essentially generate videos at the same quality. This isn't saying that creators aren't necessarily able to produce good videos, it just means they need a little bit more time because corporations have more help. And if you think about it, some of the biggest creators like MrBeast or other creators alike have a team of videographers, editors, just like corporations, because after all, at the end of the day, majority of these content creators have realized if they need to compete against these companies, they need to get more help and support. So in reality, most creators have realized
If you can't beat him,
join. Lastly, smaller creators do indeed have the security of essentially being where even if they fall below 1k subscribers or 4k watch hours, as long as they are consistently posting for 6 months or less, they will remain their monetization and YouTube will not take it away, which is really nice if you think about it. Secondly, YouTube has this program where if you have videos that get limited ads and you send multiple disputes, if YouTube essentially approves of your dispute, you will essentially get put into a program where essentially, although videos can still get limited ads. However, this makes it a lot easier when uploading because copyright checks take seconds instead of 5 to 10 minutes, and limited ad checks take about 2 minutes or less than 10 to 20 minutes. So in reality, YouTube does technically have things where they look out for smaller creators and channels alike. The final abyss, YouTube's broken content ID system. Aside from, of course, the rampant amount of creators making false copyright strikes to remove videos that have been critical of them or going after the creators' sponsors, which are both douchey and incredibly illegal, to say YouTube's content ID system is broken would be an understatement.
If I counterclaim a bogus claim, you'd think that YouTube would say, yeah, that is a bogus claim. They rejected my dispute. YouTube is favoring with the company.
Correction, PewDiePie, YouTube is not in favor of the company, they're in favor of the claimant. To show you how bad it is, we're gonna talk about how a billion-dollar company got their money money stolen by a random nobody making false DMCA claims. For context, Riot Games created a royalty-free music called Sessions Vi, a lo-fi track that was meant for creators to use in order to not suffer copyright claims or DMCA claims. So essentially, they could play their music while fully monetizing their videos and Twitch streams. And this is where the false DMCA claim comes from. So essentially, a random nobody from a record label called Fuga Appreciation, who have also had a history of falsely copyright claiming videos, as shown by a lo-fi creator named Luke Rembo, who had his lo-fi track called Biscuit falsely copyright claimed by the company across YouTube. This is nothing new after all, but many people suspected that a billion-dollar company like Riot would get a little bit more respect and fairer treatment when making such claims. Unfortunately, that was not the case. The company ended up getting this copyright claim by a random nobody who called the song Louis Vuitton. For those who aren't aware of Louis Vuitton is a corporation that Riot has collabed with multiple times and has also been featured in Riot's Worlds tournaments. So yeah, just to add a little bit more salt to the already massive wound. What's even worse is that even if you make the copyright dispute, Riot essentially loses in this case because the claimant gets to decide whether or not they own this song. So essentially what happens is people can anonymously claim whatever video they want, file a false claim, and when you dispute it, essentially the company or the claimant will say, no, I own the rights to this song, when they don't. This is how screwed up YouTube's copyright system is. The billion-dollar company Riot Games not only ended up having their money stolen, they also ended up screwing over every single creator who used their royalty-free music out of this money. It ultimately got so bad to the point where Riot Games themselves had to publicly make a Twitter statement and remove the song from their Spotify album. That is how bad it had gotten. Now, thankfully, YouTube managed to punish the claimant and also remove the copyrighted song. The claimant still has his channel non-terminated, and he still could be out there claiming other people's videos who don't have a voice or an act to protest, not only accounting for the amount of monetary money that was stolen from every single creator who used the song in their videos for months on end. This makes the situation even worse. This is why YouTube needs to fix their issues of censorship and copyright, because if content creators and corporations get suffered due to this issue, how can YouTube possibly manage to keep growing? If there's no corporations or creators because they're all upset, then there is no YouTube, period. Anyways, that's gonna conclude this video. Thank you guys for watching. I'm gonna try and post more videos. Sorry if I've been gone for a long time. My bad. Bye bye.